The Miami Herald is reporting that the Miami Heat have injected a, quote, jolt of intrigue. Zaz, was that you just clearing the snot in your nose on right into your microphone?
No.
I'm pretty sure that I just heard the clearing
You're
of
hearing things.
snot.
No, you're mistaken.
From the I'm pretty sure that radio and audio professional Jonathan Zaslow just started his week by clearing snot from his nose,
Making things up.
into the microphone.
Didn't hear it.
Loudest sound I've heard from a body since Greg Cody's stomach growled like a small animal.
Why are you making things up?
How did you feel about Tua being released here this morning? Because Jeremy's claiming it's to get us to not talk about the jolt of intrigue that Barry Jackson is reporting that the Heat have injected into the season.
That's right.
How did I feel about Tua being released this morning? I told you how I felt about it when I reported it, I don't know, probably 3 weeks ago.
It was a month ago. We have that sound. We have found the sound of Zaslow reporting before everyone else that Tua was going to be released. But macro instead of micro, though. I'm not talking about whether you got it right or whether or not something in the last month is relevant. I'm talking about a quarterback who was here for many years, not unlike Ryan Tannehill, and it ends with a fart noise.
Well, you know, he can find a new team now. It's going to be pretty dope. I mean, you know, it's what he wanted. Said it'd be real dope if he could find a new home. I think Tua is the biggest bust in franchise history.
Oof.
That's wild to say because didn't he lead the league in passing?
Let me simplify it for you. We did pretty much 2 years of tank for Tua. Like, this was a major story here for a couple of years. They get their guy. They get Tua. If I would tell you that tank for Tua leads to 0 playoff victories, is that a bust or not?
But
nothing. Yes or no?
I guess it's a disappointment, but he led the league in passing. Like, I don't think he's more disappointing than, say, Deion Jordan.
Is this a bust? 44-32 record as a starter, 18,000 passing yards, 120 passing TDs versus 59 interceptions. So a 2-to-1 TD to interception rate. Is that bust?
No. I understand the context that Zaz is applying, the hype. Like, this guy was supposed to save the franchise. He did not deliver on that. But I will say, there were a couple times there where it felt like he might be.
So 12 quarterbacks have gotten contracts worth at least $50 million annually over the past 4 years. Tua is the first to get released. And I don't think that you can separate these things from the money, right? He's calling it a bust, at least in part because of how high he was drafted. Mike's mentioning Deion Jordan. That's a top 10 pick who gave you nothing. That's a pass rusher who gave you absolutely nothing as a top 10 pick. Top 10 pick is Reuben Bain.
Yeah, I think he went top 5, Deion Jordan.
Yeah, I think he was number 3. But Deion Jordan wasn't expected to lead your franchise. Like, we felt that way because he was drafted number 3 overall. When you select a quarterback at the top of the draft, he's supposed to lead your franchise.
They traded up to get him as well. But what you guys just did to me there is funny, where I made him a top 10 pick, and you're like, he's better than that. He's top 5. And then you said he was number 3, which makes him top 3, not top 5.
Top 3. More disappointing, Zaz.
Basketball is back, Jack. Time for our favorite winter sport. The summertime is over, so let's head down to the court. Time for the tip-off. Give me fast breaks on the attack. Will you shoot a 3 or take it to the rack? Basketball is back, Jack. It's a dream shake down in the post, or a killer cross you love the most. When the offense tries to run and gun, is it man-to-man or box and one? It's big plays and talking smack. That's how you know that basketball is back, Jack. Let me hear you say basketball, basketball, basketball. Basketball is back, Jack. 360 dunks and pick and rolls. And we're gonna watch it every day till they raise the Larry O. Hard fouls and hook shots. A dagger 3 and hack a shack. If you say this game's the best, I'll say Zagak. Basketball is back, Jack. Basketball is back, Jack. Basketball is back. Basketball is back, Jack.
The Dolphins' new ownership, leadership is now in a position where they are fumigating the building. If Jason Sanders isn't already gone, he's about to be. It's 27 straight field goals, 9 for 9 from 50 plus. They couldn't agree on a contract. That was a serviceable kicker. I don't know why it is that they would get rid of him. I'm assuming he's just counting, he's asking for too much money. Alec Ingold is leaving as well. He's joining Mike McDaniel with the Chargers.
People felt that one.
I mean, he's a fan favorite. The Dolphins haven't had a lot of those over the years. Just a little guy who's overachieving out there anytime he does anything. You talk about Tua being a bust because of expectations. Alec Ingold is a fan favorite because of the lack of expectations. He was so small, but they're clearly fumigating the buildings and it's a start over project where Dolphin fans have to be wildly frustrated by the fact that 25 years into an experiment that doesn't have a playoff win, you're back at everything is starting over now. You don't have a quarterback. Geno Smith's preferred destination is Miami. He went to Miramar High School. So the reports are that this is where he wants to be. And I guess the options are, you can't get excited about Geno Smith, but the options are Malik Willis and Kyler Murray, right?
All signs are pointing Malik Willis going to Arizona, it seems.
So this means that the thing that's left is Kyler Murray. Why in God's name would he choose here? We talked last week about why he would choose the Jets when he's going to have skill position limitations. He'd have those here as well.
No, he should go to Minnesota, Kyler Murray. Very clearly.
That'd be great for him.
You got weapons there. You have a coach who has proven what he could do with a quarterback, and you have a chance to be the starter. Kyler Murray, Minnesota feels like a thing.
Let's examine this for a second because this was, amazingly enough, this was just a couple of years ago. Let's play the sound of Tua. He told us this was him just trying to cash a bet with one of his teammates where his teammate dared him to do something like this, and then he did it. This was merely 2 years ago. The money is always an interesting thing in sports because that sport is salary capped for no good reason. The players have no one to blame but themselves because they collectively bargained the salary cap, and there is no reason that other than it's been collectively bargained and owners want to fix costs because Jerry Jones can't be trusted to not spend $1 billion trying to get Patrick Mahomes, literally no matter what the cost if you don't have a salary cap. So we're always talking about the money, but the money is the biggest gulf between fans and players. It's the biggest problem, even though I can make reasonable arguments that most of the players in that sport are underpaid. A few are paid fine, but most of them are underpaid for what it is that they're doing. And salary cap restrictions make it so that we're always talking about the money. But the salary cap hit that Tua is going to be going forward is more damaging than the Deshaun Watson one is and will be over the next couple of years. And I thought the Deshaun Watson contract is the worst in the history of that sport. And yet Tua's is more damaging over the next 2 years, just financially in terms of what it's going to cost you to simply release him. I have not read, because it just happened, so I haven't read the details. I'm not a salary cap expert. Why are they releasing him this minute? Because they said last week that all options were on the table. They were saying at the scouting combine that they were still trying, that they said, they put their name on, there has been interest in Tua, but they get nothing for him now.
Yeah, you know that's not true, though. I mean, there's interest. There's no way.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, I guess, would have a bigger market, and they ended up releasing him too. All the teams in the league know that we're not going to give you anything for these guys. We're not going to let you off the hook. You're not going to get anybody to willingly absorb this.
Did you even believe there was a report a couple days ago that there is a team out there that would be willing to trade for Tua, but you have to attach a first-round pick to it? I don't even know if I believe that.
Well, they said there's interest, and I don't think they'd say. I'm going to give the new leadership the benefit of the doubt that they're not going to just lie. They're not going to open with lying to our face when they are saying there's interest. I want to give you some numbers here, though, because I remember many, many years ago when the Marlins got Carlos Delgado, okay, in a non-salary cap sport. He got so much money, and one of the stats that was given then when he got so much money is that you cannot tie up in a non-salary cap sport and win. You cannot tie up a disproportionate percentage of your salary cap in one player in baseball and win. Here's the numbers on 15 quarterbacks who are on the books for at least $45 million a year last year. 6 of them made the playoffs. 6 of 15 made the playoffs, and none got past the divisional round. 8 finished below 500. So half of the quarterbacks, you've got to hit. You have to hit on a star if you're paying him this in a salary-capped league. Tua, Kyler Murray, and Kirk Cousins are all going to be released. Deshaun Watson obviously didn't play, but that's 15 quarterbacks, and 6 made the playoffs, none passed the divisional round, and 8 finished below 500. You can't do it that way unless it's Mahomes. And what you also can't do, and the Dolphins did this, you see what the Rams are doing again with McDuffie, with paying their corners. They're behaving as if they're play away because Stafford's old and they have to win in the Stafford window. They know they've got a quarterback. McVay's going to get exposed at least some when he doesn't have that kind of professionalism anymore at the quarterback. And it's not even his fault. Your quarterback has to be great, but he especially has to be great if you're paying him the way that the Dolphins were paying Tua.
Well, yeah, the way the league works now, clearly, if you're paying your quarterback top money, like if he's being paid in the top 7, 8, 9, 10 quarterbacks in the league, he has to be like a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. That's the only way to win when they're making that much money. So you have 2 ways to win with your quarterbacks. Either he's a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, or your quarterback is on the rookie contract, so he's performing so far above the value, and that's why Kyler Murray was making the money, not a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. Kirk Cousins, Tua Tagovailoa, like those guys are getting paid the top dollar. They are not in that category. You cannot win with them.
But we have to admit that when those contracts were signed, there was plenty of scrutiny applied to it. Yeah. Everyone knew these were potential ticking time bombs, and they ended up being so. I do want to clean one thing up. You said that the Dolphins announced immediately that they're releasing him, but part of that statement was they're going to wait till the new league year starts, and there's a reason for that, because the NFL salary cap isn't real.
Yeah, that post-June 1st designation means that the $99 million in dead cap will be spread over 2 years. So it's just a tick over $67 million for this upcoming season, and then just a tick under $32 million for the following year.
And isn't the timing of it being today is because free agency starts in 3 hours from now?
Yeah, you want to do right by him and let him know what his options are, have the marketplace, have a deep understanding of what his situation is.
When Jeremy hits you with that number, though, $67 million for a quarterback to not play, pair that against what Moss just told everybody Messi's making for Inter Miami, which is between $70 and $80 million. So for that amount of money, Inter Miami gets the best soccer player there's ever been, and he actually plays, and his contract is through 2028. For the amount of money that Tua's counting against the cap here, the Dolphins get a quarterback who's not going to play today, who they release. That is an uncommon disaster. Whether it's the biggest bust in franchise history or not, I don't know. I'm willing to say that, given that he did give them 7 years of play and was their starter and did lead the league in offense one time. But as a financial move, it's unquestionably a disaster in a salary cap sport that you gave this guy all this money 2 years ago, and 2 years later, you are simply cleaning house in a way that I don't think the Dolphins have ever cleaned house. I think this is the biggest fumigation of the facility that there has ever been.
Why are they cleaning house?
because they haven't won a playoff game in 25 years, and largely they had a general manager in charge who was allowed to stay in charge without winning a playoff game more than any general manager in the league has ever been, was allowed during that time period to stay in charge with that kind of failure.
All correct. If the quarterback worked out, would they be cleaning house today?
No.
Biggest bust in franchise history.
So what goes into that classification? Because the guys I think of are Eric Kumaro. The guys I think of are Daddy Bosa, the original Bosa who spawned pass rushers. His sperm better at rushing the passer than he was.
Good sperm.
So you got Bosa, you got Kumaro in franchise history.
Deion Jordan,
Sammy Smith. Sammy Smith.
Yatil Green, but that was injury.
But they didn't have to reset the franchise when those guys didn't work out.
John Avery. That one stung.
I still can smell the nachos on Jimmy Johnson's breath as he explained to me why it is that John Avery was the right pick over Randy Moss.
You know, John Avery might be up there. John Avery, when you consider that Randy Moss.
First round.
Oh, yeah, but Randy Moss was on the board, and that was the debate. Avery is pretty bad.
Late first round.
But that is a funny way we do busts, though, right? It's who they could have gotten instead. Like, I remember basically all of my viewpoints on coaching smarts disintegrating with the smell on Jimmy Johnson's breath as he explained to me why John Avery was the correct pick over Randy Moss.
Was there jalapeno or just the nacho chips?
It was just the chips. You know that chip breath.
A little cilantro, little hint.
No, it was just it smelled all like Tostitos.
Yeah, but I do think like who's on the board does play a large factor. Ted Ginn might have been considered that, but then Brady Quinn ended up being bad.
Two coaches and a general manager deserved, but two coaches and a general manager were fired because two didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Brian Flores merited being fired on record.
Not on, and you know what? I'll take that one back because he wasn't really fired because Tua wasn't good. He was fired for a handful.
Yeah, but he was also fired. He was also fired because he didn't believe in Tua.
Right.
And the way that he went about it.
Right. Yeah, I take that back.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how the league goes, though. Yeah, you build around the quarterback. If the quarterback doesn't work out, you usually go down with that quarterback.
Jeremy is wearing a jacket, and I'm not sure if it's because he's working very hard. I've noticed, Jeremy's working very hard around here, and then I see him late at night also sitting next to Ron Rothstein and doing an assortment of things on the Heat broadcast. Did you wear a jacket in because you forgot that this was the job that you were coming in?
No, it's because I'm a professional.
Okay.
I'm a pro broadcaster, and I'm a pro analyst, clearly, because I have continuously been right, not just this season, but for several years about the Miami Heat, and I am waiting for my apology. I'm waiting for my apology. You guys roasted me all last week for believing that the Heat could beat the Hornets and the Pistons over the weekend, and that they were starting to ascend. They've won 5 in a row. They're one of the hottest teams in basketball. Bam Adebayo is right at the top of the league in on-off. He's potentially coming in as a dark horse for his first defensive player of the year, despite the fact that it should have been for years and years and years, averaging 24, 10, and 3. He's been spectacular, and so is Tyler Hero.
Bam has been great.
I'm owed an apology.
Tyler Hero, you're not owed an apology yet. Tyler Hero has been very
Tyler's
good.
been great.
Against Charlotte, he went
Great.
33-9-9. Well, look.
0 turnovers.
Yeah, and 0 turnovers. Anyone's going to look great when they go 8 for 10 from 3, okay? And he did go 8 for 10 from 3.
How many guys can do that?
And Brian Shaw did it. So
You got me there, Dan.
there are a few.
Shaw was 10 of 15 that night.
There have been. Go look at the number of Heat players. Look at the list
I'm gonna look.
above
It's
Tyler
specifically
Hero.
8 for
Mario Chalmers.
Adjusted
not
for
most.
inflation, Brian Shaw hit 33s in a game.
Most threes in a game by a Heat
That
player.
number's crazy.
It's not an impressive
the
list.
90s.
It's not. It really isn't an impressive
He
list.
made his first 6 that
That was
night.
crazy.
But you mentioned Charlotte, and it was a nice win because we were really talking up Charlotte. To go on the road, I don't believe this Heat team can win road games, but they keep telling us they're better than their record indicates, and right now they're the hottest team in the league. They beat Eric Collins' team. Eric Collins is the broadcaster who screams and yells. He's going to be on with us later in the show. Let's just give the people a sampling of what it is that Eric Collins does.
With the guts of a cat burglar, we're tied at 97.
Lamb's going to have to fire. Make it hurt, Trey. Woo! Looking like Vince Carter. Trey, man, come alive. The greatest shot by LaMelo Ball. Miles Bridges, pumpkin-lee deep. LaMelo! Oh, a double clutch dipsy do boom. Half court alley-oop. This is Hornets basketball.
Roy, cut up a couple of those that sound most like someone being shivved in prison so that I could just play again and again the difference between true Hornets elation and someone being stabbed with a sharp object. I'd like to see what the difference is between those two things.
We're just going to let Jeremy say he's been right about the Heat for several years.
I have been.
Okay.
You keep doing it.
I mean, but I have actually been right.
No, you've been
Unless
gaslighting me.
Unless you've been saying
for
that
4 years about this stuff.
Hold on.
Excuse me. I reclaim my time. Jeremy, you haven't been saying that the Miami Heat are going to go out in the first round of the NBA playoffs for the last few years. That makes you wrong.
No, what I've been
You've
saying,
been saying
is that
that
they shouldn't tank and they have
I reclaim my time.
pieces
I
to
reclaim my
build
time.
around.
I reclaim my time.
Okay.
I reclaim my time. That was a very nice win against Charlotte. This is what the Miami Heat do. They'll give you one good win, maybe rattle off a good week.
It was an incredible game Friday night against Charlotte. Great game.
And that's a tough place to play.
Great game.
We've been there where the franchise that has been down bad for a little bit starts believing.
Not a tough place to play.
Not at all.
But that was a good atmosphere.
It's one of the arenas that you routinely get a Let's Go Heat
I
chance.
reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. I had the sound up for this game. That was a good atmosphere in Charlotte. They were starting to believe. There was reason for real excitement. That was a real good performance from Miami. The Pistons, I'm a little confused by. They've had a wretched week. They were on the back end of a back-to-back. I just started watching the NBA this week, and I can tell you the Detroit Pistons are the worst team in the league, from what I can tell.
They are a very physical basketball team. They have gone through a rough patch. It's going to get rough in the playoffs when they're counting on 2/5 of their starting lineup being Duncan Robinson and Tobias Harris, who Myron Gardner felt comfortable enough yesterday
Myron
to
Gardner,
call
Dan.
him the B word 3 times, called Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is running around out there and has been for many years for no discernible reason. Like Tobias Harris, I would not trust at all, and they are counting on him in Detroit. They are limited offensively after Cunningham. They really are. That there are some limits to what it is that they can do, and I think that Baltimore and the Knicks are. I go back and forth on the Knicks because of how close that series was last year with Detroit.
Max Crosby trade. That's why.
When I look at Detroit, I see a very physical team, and winning with physical teams is another way of doing it in the modern age. That's nobody's really trying it that way in the modern age.
Yeah, but you're right though about what they're going to look like in the playoffs when you're playing a good defensive team in the postseason in a 7-game series, and they're going to focus on Cade Cunningham, and you don't have really anyone after him that can score. Like I think Detroit. It's weird to say that a team that's 45-18, they may be in a little bit of trouble, but like I feel like they may be in a little bit of trouble.
I will surprise you guys, though. There is something that I've said last week in regards to the NBA that I need to walk back and apologize.
Go on.
Jason Tatum and the Celtics.
Jason, that just says him. No aura.
I mean, they've looked pretty good since he's come back.
But Tatum, no aura.
Crazy that was your take and your take alone.
They won at Cleveland, and Boston is really good and has been for a while. And I would assume that the Miami Heat are a team specifically that Boston would prefer not to have anywhere around, because over a 7-game series with Spoelstra as your coach, it's going to require Jaylen Brown and Tatum to be better than they've been the last few times that they've faced the Miami Heat in the playoffs, and that could be a substantive ask. But the Celtics, for years now, when healthy, have been a good deal better than everyone in the East. I saw over the weekend, we have a number of mistakes around here, and the worst mistakes that we make, though, are right at the beginning of the broadcast. I saw that Pablo Torre at the Sloan conference, David Sampson wouldn't shut up at the beginning of what it is that they were doing at the Sloan conference, and I could see Pablo getting frustrated because you want to get the kite up in the air at the start of a broadcast, And I know that Ernie Johnson gnawed his face off when the other day, for the first time this season, he welcomed everyone into the ESPN broadcast by saying it was TNT. Right at the beginning.
Muscle memory. That's tricky.
Right, but it was right at the start. I know. I sometimes call Zaz Stugotz by accident. You've heard me do it a couple of times here. And the first couple of months that Shannon Sharp was on with Stephen A., he kept calling him Skip by mistake.
Come on, Skip.
But Ernie somehow managed to go several months without doing it, and then did it right while welcoming everyone in.
Did he acknowledge it?
Yeah, he's like, he was mortified. He's like, it happened. I knew it was going to happen. And then they started sinking into, I never see that show. That show sinks into the mistakes, right? But the mistakes are never Ernie's. The show sinks into the mistakes because it's a bunch of other guys, and Ernie's the one tethering the whole thing together so that the others can make the mistakes. It was, I saw it as a broadcast professional. I felt for Ernie Johnson because he was mortified. It was as if he had seen something paranormal wandering around the studio, and it was a segment of his past that was coming to haunt him. But when I put in front of you the numbers on Messi, because Moss pointed out, I've never heard, the stadium sponsor is called NU, N-U. It's a Brazilian financial service. I don't know anything about them, but they're going to be able to refer to it as Inter Miami's new stadium, which really works as a, and he was explaining why it is that he had to take them as the sponsor, because it's very difficult. The Marlins had this difficulty. Very few businesses in Miami actually are able to support the big sports, major league sports things that we have here. It's why you have so many attorneys broadcasting, sponsoring the Miami Heat stuff. It's why the baseball park is called Lone Depot, and it's why Inter Miami could not find a local sponsor to pay the amount of money that it costs to pay Messi between $70 and $80 million. But when I say that number to you guys, and Jeremy says that Tua is going to cost $67 million against the cap, and it's what Inter Miami is paying Messi. I mean, when you talk about how it is that franchises in this market have gone from spending money well to get to the top, like the Panthers, like the Heat don't have a lot of busts in their history. Michael Beasley qualifies, but there's not a lot of wasted money, and you cannot waste money in a salary cap sport in one player who doesn't work out, who you wake up on Monday morning and you've just released to play for someone else. You realize the Dolphins, he's going to be able to salvage his career by playing for a small amount of money wherever he goes. He's going to go to a place where he's going to be either the best backup in the league or somebody who's able to rejuvenate his career because he's gone someplace to get back to big money making, as they pay him the minimum and the Dolphins end up paying the entirety of a giant salary.
There is an option 3. Option 3 is he continues this downward trajectory and he's out of the league in a couple of years.
The most likely option.
He's not that skilled anymore, and it could be a byproduct of the head injuries.
Oh, but he's a low-level starter right now, and you saw last year, the second half of the season, how many bad quarterbacks were playing, because every year in that league, you have, by the end of the season, an assortment of Kenny Pickett's playing because they're low-level starters and you just need competence.
Oh, he's certainly going to get another shot around the league in a situation that'll give him a pathway to playing, unless he goes to a team that is fully solidified at the position and it's just like, give me a get-right year where I can learn at this staff. Like, maybe let me go to L.A. so I can refurbish my career the way that Baker Mayfield did under this coaching staff. I just became Pat McAfee there for his coaching staff.
Zaslow, you were eager to get in here because you've got a lot of Tua opinions.
Yeah, I still feel like every time that you bring up the things that have gone wrong with Tua, and specifically how much you count against the salary cap, in a salary cap sport, you can't, be making that much money and have it not work out. But you're giving more evidence to me saying this is the biggest bust in franchise history. I understand guys like Deion Jordan amounted to literally nothing with the team, but you didn't have to reset the franchise. You didn't have to pay him when guys like that didn't work out. With Tua, they gave him a record contract, the most money the team's ever given in franchise history, and 2 years later, they're paying him to not be on their team anymore.
It is interesting to me to watch the Rams go all in on right now. The Ravens have never done what they just did, where they give up a bunch of future capital for a Max Crosby because they feel like they're a piece away. The Dolphins thought they were a piece away when they gave Bradley Chubb that money. That's egregious mismanagement to look at the roster construction and do something like that because you think you're a piece away, when we can all look at the Ravens and Rams and say, okay, I understand how they come about. The analysis, we're a piece away. The Dolphins were playing like they were a piece away, and now 2 years later, their quarterback's gone. It is an apocalypse. Like, it is so crippling. I thought Deshaun Watson and I'm right, is a contract you can't recover from. When you fail that badly with that pick and that guaranteed money, it's going to set your franchise back for several years. And the Dolphins are in the same position and don't have Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, who drives at a rate of speed that you would think he would no longer drive at, 9 speeding tickets since 2017, including in the middle of that, an accident you would think he would learn from. He drives way too fast and is reckless, and I don't feel like anyone is surprised that he's reckless. I feel like everyone's just saying to themselves, yeah, he goes 100 miles an hour everywhere at all times.
Yeah, why wouldn't he drive like that? It's not like the negative that could happen is, death. Like, why would he do that?
It is like the way that they say other athletes go onto the golf course and can't help but put giant gambling stakes on it because they need to be so ultra competitive all the time. They can't turn it off. For him, it just happens to be speed. But for other people, it's competitiveness. So they go insane on gambling on XYZ.
What do you guys do with 9 speeding tickets since 2017? I told you guys that I did not start wearing a seatbelt until Derek Thomas died in a car accident not wearing a seatbelt. It took me that long in life to sort of learn the lesson. Myles Garrett was in the car accident and is still consistently driving around at 190 and 100 miles an hour.
So your car would just be beeping and you're like, I don't care, I'm not going to put on the seatbelt?
It was before the beep.
Oh,
it was
okay.
before. I don't know when the beep was invented.
That's an annoying sound.
But yeah, my car did not have that beep at the beginning. I wouldn't be driving around with the terrible beep at all times.
The Miami Dolphins have traded Minkah Fitzpatrick. Again.
What are the details on that? It's one of the few pieces that they have that is tradable. They don't have many.
7th-round pick, New York Jets.
Okay, hold on a second. It's a great point that Roy brings up there. How many players ever have been traded by a team twice? That can't be something that's happened a lot, right?
In all of sports, I'm assuming that Ricky Henderson and Bobby Bonilla in baseball were both traded multiple times by the same team. But you're thinking it hasn't happened much across sports?
I feel like that's a really rare thing.
I mean, it certainly is in football. It's not something that I think we'll look it up here because this is just happening now. But the fact that the Dolphins have very few tradable pieces, like it really, when Greg Cody was on here a couple of weeks ago and they had just released Bradley Chubb, he said to me, "What are you so upset about? Wouldn't you have done that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would have done that." But this recurring frustration is fairly amazing to witness locally. The sport rewards when you're bad. I'm not joking when I say I could have put anyone in charge over the last 25 years and stumbled into a playoff victory. The Dolphins have the longest playoff-less drought in the sport without a win, right? It's longer than even the Raiders. During this time, we've seen the Patriots fall and get back up again. During this time, we saw the Bills go 17 straight seasons without getting a playoff win to now having the MVP of the league and expecting to be in the playoffs. Do you guys disagree with me when I say I could have put any management in charge for the last 25 years, anybody, and gotten a playoff win? Mathematically, how many teams haven't? How many teams have not had a playoff win in 25 years where you're just sitting there waiting for them to get better based on the medicine the league gives you to get better? It's a major market. People want to play here. People want to live here. 25 years. I'm not saying, I'm not saying They say that if you put a million monkeys at a million computers, eventually they'll produce Shakespeare. But if I put any management team that's not primate, if I put any management team at all over 25 years, you don't think I'm going to get a playoff win, Zaslow? One playoff win.
D'Angelo Russell was traded by the Lakers twice, both times to the Brooklyn Nets.
Both times to the Nets?
Brandon Cooks has been traded 4 times in his career. That's the most times anyone has ever been traded in the NFL. Just 4 times overall. I can't find an example of someone being traded by the same team twice. I'm like a dog with a bone on this, though. I'll find it.
See Ricky Henderson. Look up Ricky Henderson and Gary Sheffield, who were nomads, who were great, and it's rare for nomads. It's rare for the great ones to be nomads, Hall of Fame talents. It's good to see that Roy is back, and I want to publicly accuse him of the same thing I've been accusing him of privately, which is going to Key West for a weekend fishing and barbecue tournament, and he left last week on Tuesday. And I'm pretty sure everyone listening to this knows that the Keys are asleep Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Nothing happens in Key West until Friday. You've been off since Tuesday with this company grift. You and Rose have been fishing and barbecuing on company time. How did you end up doing?
We didn't win, Dan. The best we did was we finished 3rd in a category, which was turkey. But we did not do well in day 1 with the fishing. We thought that we would do well day 2 on a sandbar party that had a People's Choice Award, but that didn't go too well either, apparently. And day 3, I thought we had a good cook, but apparently not. Judging is subjective. But
Just throw him under the bus.
I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I thought we had a good cook. We should have won.
Not a good cook as in a person, a good cook as in the result of the cooking.
Yes, the result of cooking.
Okay. Misunderstood.
Okay, so did I. I thought that they had Dave Williamson, who is a good cook.
That's what I'm here for, Dan.
He won the championship. You guys won the championship last year. You were the defending champions. So it's not merely that you grifted off of the company for 3 days, enjoying a lovely barbecue and fishing vacation 3 days before Key West awoke. You also failed while you were out there.
That's right, Dan. It was a 4-man team, myself, Dave, Jody, and Chico. So we thought we did well, but not according to the judges.
So also lacking in self-awareness as well. So not just failures who grift off the company for 3 days, but also lacking in total self-awareness where you think you had produced something that was tasty and award-winning, and instead you just failed.
You are right, Dan. You are absolutely correct.
Found a player in Major League Baseball history that was traded for himself. He was the player to be named later. Harry Cheedy.
I don't believe you.
No, Harry Cheedy. He was a Cleveland baseball player. I'm an ally. Got acquired by the Mets and then was sent back to the Cleveland baseball team, ally, as a player to be named later in the deal.
Ricky Henderson was traded 4 times. Gary Sheffield was traded 5 times. Jesse Chavez, 11 times. Leads Major League Baseball.
Well, we're looking for traded by the same team.
Yeah, I know.
Twice.
I'm looking for it.
Keep looking for
Dog with a bone.
it. See what it is that you find. Some of the players that we're making, that we're mentioning, might make you feel old, but I've got something right now that I believe represents the oldest I have ever felt as it regards watching an athlete do something, and I'm including dying in the conversation, okay? Because I've told you I feel very old when I see Jermaine O'Neal Jr. playing for SMU. I feel very old whenever people from my past die, people from my childhood die, but I have never felt older than seeing Deion Sanders do an actual commercial for Depends diapers.
Oh, no.
Now, it's bladder cancer, so I don't mean to shame him, but when I think of Depends, I think of ancient people. When I think of people who have to wear diapers in public, I think of the president of our country.
I think therein lies the problem. Depends has several practical uses for people that don't look like that.
That is correct. But when I saw Deion Sanders specifically doing an ad for Depends when he can do ads for whoever he wants, I did not think that it was him trying to take the stigma off Depends. I thought that Depends paid an enormous amount of money, well beyond the going rate, in order to get Deion Sanders to do that commercial.
I mean, this is like Jimmy Johnson doing Extends commercials, right?
Not quite. Extends and impotence is something different. He just wanted cash. Can you guys get me that ad, please? Find me the commercial that Jimmy Johnson did in a race car outfit. It's a good call by Roy, but put it on the poll as well at Le Batard Show. Does it make you feel old to see Deion Sanders doing a commercial for Depends diapers? Yes or no?
Antoine Walker, traded from Boston to Dallas in 03, reacquired in 05, traded to the Heat.
The press box has changed.
But Mike said it best. The press box has changed. I mean, seriously, get over yourself. We're going to talk during the post game. Tim Reynolds, enough. I mean, enough.
I mean,
seriously.
you just got to know when
You're
the
not
Dan
allowed to cheer in the press box. Did you know that?
Well, I did.
They were cheering for Will Manso. I think that's allowed.
And Goldie.
If the Dan Le Batard Show comes to a hockey press box, hilarity is going to ensue.
Yeah.
They're going to yell at Will Manso for 7 minutes, and you're probably going to have to go to a
7
stairwell
seconds.
to write, man. Like, it's just...
If it was 7 minutes, I'd get it.
It
was
is what
7
it is.
seconds.
Exactly. I mean, David, everyone else was saying hi. They were enjoying the show. They were laughing at us. But one guy is still clutching on to his newspaper deadline.
I'm a little
and it's
disappointed.
Tim Reynolds.
And is he your demographics, too?
I don't know.
I happen to like Tim a lot, and
Enough of him.
I imagine this was going to be like E.J. Raddick or something, but that's just a bad look for Tim Reynolds.
Listen, I went up to him afterwards.
This was the best part. Stugotz
Yes.
is like, I've known Tim for years. I'm going to go fix this. He walked to Tim and walked right back very quickly.
Yep.
It was a very quick interaction.
Well, he was writing. Okay?
He's on deadline. It's
Enough of the deadline.
It's a
We're on deadline. I gotta get home. I feel like playing off hockey. I gotta get home. I mean,
Yeah, we're on deadline, too. We got to get that post game out.
It is a working press box. Tim Reynolds is a journalist who's trying to write, and Stugotz is back there. Hey, Will Manso!
that was Chris and Goldie. Don't leave out Goldie.
We're on deadline, too. They're going to kick us out of that press box a lot sooner than they'll kick out Tim Reynolds, who's just typing away. That's just,
Those writers had their game stories done before the end of the
Precisely.
Yeah, a good writer, right?
Oh,
What happened there? I apologize to him. I've known Tim for decades. I mean, Cody was done. He was out of there. I mean, you know.
What was that interaction like, Stugotz? Take us behind the scenes. You walk up to him, you say what, he says what?
I said, Tim, I apologize. That's on me. I should know better. Not Chris, okay? I should know better. I've been in press boxes before. I know you have a deadline. I apologize. And he said, that's fine. Just, try to keep it down.
That is way too long.
That was
Way
much
too
longer
long.
than the actual
He's on
conversation.
deadline.
I always extend it a little
Can we
bit.
call,
I mean, you guys
can we
know that.
call Tim Reynolds and just ask him about what the
Don't,
interaction was
no,
like?
no.
Greg Cody's back in my day. Seeds.
Seeds. Seeds. Had a slice of watermelon lately? Popped a few grapes in your maw? Then you probably noticed seeds are disappearing from fruit. And you probably see this as a good thing just because it makes life a little easier. We love us some convenience. In fact, it's a terrible thing, the de-seeding of us. Symbolically alone, the seed is the king of life. Adam gave his to Eve, and here we are, if you believe the story. If they take the seed out of humans the way we have watermelons, we're all dead ducks. Beans, peas, rice, coffee, corn, all seeds. Flour and oil started as seeds. All hail seeds. So what the hell is happening? In exchange for convenience, we are not valuing the seed's impact on health, biodiversity, and our food system. The genetic variability of most plants require seeds as essential to their evolution. De-seeded Artificially homogenized fruits rely on human intervention in the reproductive process, exposing the fruits to many pathogens. Plainly put, seedless fruits are not as good for you. They contain less fiber and have fewer minerals and vitamins than their seeded natural brethren. Seedless fruits also have fewer antioxidants, plant-based nutrients, and anti-inflammatory properties. But enough about this science. Bring back seeds because seeds are fun. Not to mention aesthetically and visually pleasing. Kids growing up today have sliced open a watermelon, have never sliced open a watermelon, and experienced the joy of seeing that juicy red flesh dotted with embedded black seeds. Nellie Doogie used to tell us if we swallowed a watermelon seed, a big melon would grow on our belly. It wasn't true. But as kids would make a competition out of seed spitting. You extracted the big seeds from the melon flesh. Tongue only, never fingers or a utensil, and you'd see who could project a seed the farthest. Every summer we did that. This was before video games, kids. Made our own games and toys. Flew a kite, kicked a can, spit a seed. Grapes were the real challenge because the seeds were so much smaller. We'd both pop a grape in our mouth, tongue moving, jaws in action, and whoever could spit out 3 seeds onto the table the fastest won. To this day, I carve real pumpkins and eschew the free fab foam and plastic fakes, mainly for the treasure trove of seeds inside. Hundreds and hundreds of them waiting to be scraped out, cleaned, and roasted in the oven to become delicious natural snacks. Respect, worship, and bring back the seeds. I need a t-shirt that says convenience is overrated. Insist to your local grocer that you'll take your watermelon seeded, please, and the grapes too. I'm Greg Cody, and that's how it was back in my day.
Journalism is dead.
But journalism, as we know it, as you know it, what you wanted to do when you were a little kid, okay, it has changed. It has. It's changed, okay? You're not wrong. Stephen A. Smith is not wrong. You have to adapt sometimes, okay? Because the game has changed. Your priorities have shifted. No one cares how someone goes and gets the news that they get as long as the news is accurate, as long as it's coming from a credible place. If it's Woj, if it's Adam Schefter, if it's you, if it's Diana Rossini, if it's Shams, nobody cares. You might care. Greg Cody might care. Stephen A. Smith might care. But you know what? You all sold out. Every single one of you, okay? Stephen A. Smith jumped inside the circus tent. I don't blame him. Why'd he do it? Because he had to do it. Because the game has changed. You jumped inside the circus tent. You did. You did so with me. Think about that. With me and with Greg Cody every Tuesday, okay? And so you have ditched journalism a long, long time ago because why? Survival of the fittest, Dan. You have to change with the times. You have to roll with the changing environment, roll with the changing industry, and that's what you decided to do. That's what Stephen A. decided to do. And for Woj, for guys like him, the game has changed slightly, where he went out and he sought reports, and he wanted to be the reporter. And you know what? If now he has morphed into a mouthpiece for the Blazers, I'm okay with it. I am good with it. I don't care.
Survival of the fattest.
Everyone, exactly. Everyone is selling out to make a buck.
What a terrible timing.
It was great.
Like that joke.
Hey, just give it up. You all want to be journalists. You're not journalists anymore. None of you. Not a one of you. Sorry.
You didn't even hear the joke. You
said
I
did. Survival of the fattest. It was great.
It just could have been done after Stugotz stopped talking, Dan.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoehorn that
But I'm
in.
okay. I'm okay
You're
with
splitting
it.
hairs.
Right.
Okay.
You adapt. You roll with things, man. That's it. You know, Dan, you started off, you know, if you're a driver, you drove a yellow cab and you were loyal to the yellow cab. You know what? But the game has changed to Uber, to Lyft, to private driving. And you know what? You have to ditch the yellow cab and you have to drive an Uber. Why? Because you'll make more money. Why? Because more people are taking Uber than the dirty yellow cabs. That's why. That's what you do. No one cares about journalism. You know what they care about? Laughing, being entertained. And you do a great job of that. And Stephen A. Smith does a great job of that. No one cares about journalism. People care about smiling. That's it.
You know, this morning I found myself while I was driving Claire to school. I told her, you know, you ask a lot of questions. You should be a journalist. And now here in this conversation, I just, you know what? Don't be a journalist. Like,
Exactly.
do something else.
It's over.
Sad.
You're going to let Stugotz parent your daughter. You think that's a good idea?
You think journalism is a good occupation to choose now?
No, I would not. Listen, not only is it not a good occupation to choose,
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
a lot of people are enjoying this Hornets team, but nobody seems to be enjoying this Hornets team more than Eric Collins. We will get to him in a second. He is the voice of America's team, the Charlotte Hornets. He's the play-by-play announcer for the NBA on Prime as well. But before we get to him, let's just air that Jimmy Johnson commercial for erectile dysfunction.
I'm Jimmy Johnson. No, not the race car driver. I'm the better-looking Jimmy. Since I recently became the spokesperson for Extends, everywhere I go, guys ask me if Extends really works. I'm here to tell you, Extends works for me. I started taking Extends before I became their spokesperson. With over 1 billion tablets of Extends taken by men of all ages, I was sold, and you should be too. Extends does things only one way. Really, really big.
If you call now, we'll send you a week's supply of Extends absolutely free. Call now.
That is the way to introduce Eric Collins. I think I've got it wrong, though. That might not be a erectile dysfunction. It just might be a general lengthening of things. So on that note, a hum-diddly-dee and a how do you do to Eric Collins. Hello, Eric. Thank you for being on with us, sir.
Hey, guys. My pleasure. Happy Monday. I would love to say Hornets are America's team, but they've lost 2 consecutive games. First time it's happened in about a month and a half. Tough one last night in Phoenix.
They are 4th in offensive rating, however. And before we get going here, let's just play for the audience again a little montage of Eric Collins being excited.
LaMelo! Yes! With the guts of a cat burglar! We're tied at 97! Lamb's gonna have to fire! Make it hurt, Trey. Wow! Looking like Vince Carter! Trey, man, come alive! The greatest shot by LaMelo Ball! Miles Bridges! Hum-diddly-dee! LaMelo! Oh, a double clutch dipsy-do boom! Half-court alley-oop! This is Hornets basketball!
Eric, take me through the origins of hum-diddly-dee, please. I'd like to hear how it is that hum-diddly-dee became a thing.
I used to play high school basketball, and I was big into Heavy D and the Boys, and their big song was "We Got Our Own Thing," and it always began with "Hum diddly 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 dee." And I used to that was like an earworm for me for many, many years. And I'd be sitting on the end of the bench in high school, and it would just be kind of going through my head. And every once in a while, a nice play would happen, and I'd say "Hum diddly dee" out loud. And years later, when I got a job in the NBA, it just kind of became my thing. But that's the genesis of it. It's a Heavy D and the Boys reference.
None of the players know who Heavy D is, correct?
Oh, no way. No chance. But he was hot for a while, man, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
The overweight lover.
Yeah, thank you, Roy. I appreciate it. One of the few guys that's allowed to be the fat entertainer. We don't allow a lot of those, and Heavy D embraced it. But none of the players have any idea what you're talking about. I was arguing last week, Eric, that if LaMelo Ball is your best player, you're going to be what the Hornets have been. But if he's your third best player, you're going to be what the Hornets have been over the last couple of months, which is before this recent streak. That starting lineup was 20-2. They had won 16 of their last 19, and the 6-game winning streak they had, they were beating everybody by 15, including the last 3 defending champions. Is this the best time you have seen in all of Hornets history?
Wow. Well, now hold on here. You know, I saw the Hornets quite a bit back in the 90s. I was in the NBA back at the time with the Chicago Bulls, and those were really super, super solid teams. You know, I think people kind of go to sleep on them. They had great attendance, but they actually had pretty good teams. This run right now is on par with any of the best runs the Hornets have had as a franchise. You know, 16-5 in the last 21 games. That stands up to, you know, a lot of different teams' runs over the years. But it is fun the way that they're playing. the manner in which they're playing, you make a fantastic point with LaMelo Ball, because he is still the straw that stirs the drink. But the help that he's getting has allowed him to flourish physically and mentally as well. LaMelo's a wonderful, wonderful player who's got a lot of things going on in his wonderful head. He's an artist at heart. But he gets frustrated. And the frustration level has gone so far down because he's got Con Knipple playing with him. He's got others, but Con has made everything a little bit better just because the gravity of who he is as a player, the attention that he commands, his ability to be a second ball handler and a second creator. All of a sudden, LaMelo's not getting double teamed at half court. He's not getting physical the minute he gets the ball in bounds. There's other weapons on the floor, and he's thriving because of it. He's smiling again. The Hornets are playing with his type of character and his joy because he's allowed to be free again and not have to worry about some of the other things that he was dealing with for years and years and years when he was the number one option with a bullet.
He's been a problem child, though. No, he seems wildly immature.
I wouldn't call him a problem child by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's a good kid. I think he's the product of his upbringing. He had a lot of things that were kind of came easy to him, or maybe he definitely didn't have a stereotypical childhood. The guy was taken out of high school and kind of placed all across the world with his dad. It's kind of hard to kind of get a good feeling for who you are and where you are in the world when that happens. But I think he's growing into his body and growing into his game. I've seen demonstrative changes throughout the course of the year. This is by far the best 2-month window I've ever seen him as a professional, and it's translated not just to off the floor, but on the floor as well.
There's no way anyone saw Con Knipple being this right now, right?
I did not. I'm a big believer in watching adults. I don't watch a lot of college basketball. I just get frustrated. But just everything that I read about the guy, good shooter, good form, whatever. But the guy is fantastic, man. He is a real player. He understands where to be on the floor. He elevates the level of everyone he's playing with just because literally he gets so much attention no matter where he is because he is a knockdown shooter. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I never thought I'd see a better shooter with better form than Mark Price. But this guy is. And just because he's bigger and stronger and he can shoot from farther distances just because of that size. Con Knipple is, for people who are debating Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple, you're missing the whole point. You got to fall in love with Con Knipple just because he is so uniquely gifted and it's going to be good for so long.
In terms of names that you enjoy saying, who finishes second place all time to Con Knipple?
Well, I was early, and I used to do a lot of college basketball, and Sandro Mamukelashvili, for some reason, I perfected that name years and years and years ago. So I will find a way, virtually every 2 or 3 broadcasts, even when he's not playing against us, I will find a way to say Sandro Mamukelashvili because I feel so comfortable in that my ability to say that word.
So you like saying that better than even Con Knipple. You're willing to say here nationally, you're willing to put your name on that.
Well, Knipple's great. But I don't want to kind of get caught sometimes, it's certain names that,
You're scared of the nipple?
I'm scared. Yeah. So it's always, I play it right down the middle. So it's Con Knipple, and I don't really kind of vary. I don't kind of give too many illusions. It's Con Knipple.
You mentioned that the Hornets had some solid teams in the 90s, but go ahead and give me the greatest moment in franchise history.
Well, it'd be relatively sad, but Alonzo Mourning hit a jump shot in the second round of the playoffs. I don't recall the year, probably 94, 95 against the Celtics to eliminate the Celtics. In the first round of the playoffs, that's the only time the Hornets ever made it to the second round. That would be the biggest moment. That's the biggest shot, the biggest win, and it has been 30 years ago. So
that's before Heavy D.
It's on par with Heavy D. Heavy D was probably enjoying that one. Yes.
That's unbelievable that you went to Alonzo Mourning pre-heat in order to get your biggest memory in franchise history, which got you to the second round.
Yeah. Well, the bigger things was kind of off the court. The Hornets, the attendance was insane. It changed basketball. They're the origin of all these different things. The PSL. They sold out 9 consecutive years. They led the league in attendance with 24,000 for years and years and years. There was a buzz here, but there hasn't been excessive winning. That's for sure.
Could you solve a long-standing mystery for me? Because purple shirt guy in the eyes of Miami Heat fans, it's an iconic moment. He was jawing back and forth with Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade went demigod on him, and the Heat ended up advancing in that. Purple shirt guy never returned. It's almost as if he actually felt shame which today is weird. Usually they double down and just wear a purple shirt forever and become the guy that's sitting courtside that will always annoy them. But he disappeared. Why was that?
No one knows, but he definitely, I don't even think he's even come back to the arena incognito. That would have been spring of 2016. That was the last time that the Hornets were in the playoffs, and they probably should have won that playoff series. They were up through 5 games. They just needed to win one more, and they couldn't do it. Now, Dwayne Wade is a huge part of that. But yeah, I do think that there's a bit of shame. The guy, we don't do certain things in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a southern genteel city, and he was ostentatious, and I think the locals thought that, we don't need any of that. And I think a lot of hardcore Hornets fans thought that, dude, you cost us a win, man. Why are you getting underneath Dwayne Wade's skin? And yeah, he's not been around. To the best of my knowledge, he's not come back.
That was old Wade, too. That was Wade at the very end, the last embers of Dwayne Wade. We didn't think any of that was still in him by that point.
He was always prime Wade when he played against the Hornets. No matter what year of his career, it was always prime Dwayne Wade. I'm here to tell you.
Eric, how does the Hornet fan feel about Michael Jordan these days?
Well, there's always going to be a reverence and a respect, because Michael, just of everything he meant, not only to, basketball, but to this particular region. But I think the time was perfect for there to be a changing of the guard. We've got literally 180-degree different representation in terms of ownership. We've got younger guys who were not basketball players who just kind of fell in love with the game and want to do things in a different way. And I think it's been a massive shot in the arm. We've got this fantastically young, hip, smart front office, and they're working in conjunction with the coaching staff to get players that are moldable and are malleable to the ideas of, hey, this is Hornets basketball, and these are the ways we're going to have to try and win. And I just think the trade deadline deal of Kobe White was hugely indicative of what the Hornets can do in the future. The Hornets with a young core, a lot of people just figure, let's build with LaMelo, let's build with Brandon Miller, build with Kyle Knippel. But they saw a distressed asset in Kobe White. They knew that Kobe was a guy who could fill a definitive need that the coaching staff had been talking about for months. The Hornets were not great in end-of-quarter situations. Kobe White is fantastic in 2-for-1s, in getting his own shot, and setting up guys, and taking heaves. And so they went out and got him. And I think that has raised the floor for this team quite a bit. And I think they have a really good chance of doing something over the final 17 games of the season. And maybe the plan, maybe possibly get into the 6th spot. But yeah, I think things are really, really looking up right now. I think people are super excited.
Do you think there is any way that we can trick that young, smart, hip front office into taking back Terry Rozier?
No, sorry. He's all yours.
Okay.
That was really rough. Yes, but yes, no, that's not going to be rescinded. Hornets have had one trade rescinded recently. That was the Mark Williams fiasco out in L.A. with the Lakers, and I don't think it's going to happen again.
How many times will you physically actually get out of your seat while broadcasting a game?
I do. It's a very physical experience for me. And I've got a partner in Del Curry who suffers me, and he's totally cool with it. So it's kind of like the George Costanza effect. We started one way, and the next year we take it to another level. And it's all natural and fun to me, and it's just the way that I kind of enjoy a basketball game. But to give it an actual number, it's probably 6 times a game. I probably do.
Wow, really?
Times,
6
something
times a
moves
game.
Me.
So are you ever, has there been during this stretch at any point your glutes or thighs or anything in the hamstrings or nether regions is sore the next day from the amount that you're getting up out of your seat?
Nothing is ever sore, but my ego every once in a while takes a couple of hits because the people, particularly on the road, when they see me kind of get up and down and get excited about something that they deem to be trivial, I get glares. But I've figured out a long time in this career that, having a really low bar in terms of embarrassment is probably a good thing. But yes, people think that I'm a kind of a nutso on the sidelines, but who cares? It is what it is.
Yeah, that sounds like a man being shivved in prison. Let me hear that again. Yeah, if I take out the ambient noise, that is somebody being stabbed by their bunk. No, that one was more excitement.
That guy's pretty pumped for that.
Jubilant.
Yeah. Eric, thank you for being on with us. Congratulations on the success, sir.
Hey, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Staying with basketballs as a couple of things that I wanted to get to. And today is the beginning of NFL free agency at noon, so there's going to be a lot of activity, noise, names, but there was an interesting thing that happened last week, and we have been talking about, do you fix the All-Star game? How do you fix the All-Star game? Well, it's nice to see the players care. Then you have Matt Ishbia going on with Pat McAfee and saying, I know how I'll fix the three-point competition and the dunk competition. I'll offer $1 million to each player, even though it's against the rules, to get them to care. We've been talking for 2 seasons as Steph Curry and LeBron James age. Who's going to be the face of the league? How do they become the face of the league? John Morant falls off. Anthony Edwards. Minnesota's confusing to me. Anthony Edwards has fallen in love with the three. They're not actually that good. They're not going to win anything. How do you become the face of the league? Crying after a regular season game because you care so much, because you're with the Spurs, you're rallying from 25 down. It is the second biggest home comeback that the Spurs have had this century. Wemby was so tired. He got help from the Clippers. Somehow, Nicholas Batum just at the end of that game is standing out of bounds when they passed him the ball.
I wish you were there with me when I'm sitting on my couch watching this incredible comeback on a second TV and being like, I know this person. That can't be Batum. That cannot be Nick Batum playing meaningful minutes in 2026.
He's been for years
it
for
just,
them.
It can't be.
They just want him to shoot threes, and he's so comfortable doing it that he caught a ball out of bounds because that's within his range. It's where they want him. They want him further and further away from the basket. But the end of that game, the Clippers disintegrated. The Spurs won, and I was legitimately stunned to see Wemby exhausted, crying on the court because he cares like that, and it buys him so much. Do you know how rare it is for somebody who's not an American basketball player to take the path of face of the league? Jokic hasn't been allowed to do it, even though he's been unbelievably great, at least in part because his personality doesn't reveal this kind of emotion to you. He's stoic. It seems sometimes we wonder how much he actually cares. Crying at the end of a regular season game stunned me.
I love it. You know, I can't sit here. Obviously, it's a regular season game in March, that he's crying over, and that's a very cynical way to look at it. But I can't sit here and tell you my biggest criticism for the last however many years of the NBA, and certainly of the NBA player, is that they don't care, because they don't. And then also be critical because this player right here is crying after a win against an under 500 team in March. You can't play both sides like that. I love that he cares. I love when the players care, and I feel like I said this last week. I think the Spurs are going to win the whole thing this year. I think they're going to win the whole thing, and Victor Wembanyama is doing something unprecedented because this is a player who came into the league with height that has never been topped. Now, maybe there's hype that's equal to it, like LeBron was equal hype, okay? Maybe even Zion Williamson was equal hype. Magic Johnson was probably equal hype as well. Magic's not exactly a great analogy because he was drafted by a really good team, number 1 overall, because they made a trade and it gave them the number 1 overall pick. But for Wembanyama, the amount of hype that he came into the league with, and if he wins the championship this year, in just his 3rd year in the league. LeBron didn't win a championship until year 7, and it wasn't with the team that drafted him. For him to go to a team that was terrible, and if he wins the championship in year 3, meeting all of the expectation, we've never seen anything like this before.
I thought he might potentially, because of his size and his game, be so unstoppable in this league that he might ruin it. And he's basically the Terminator in Terminator 2, which is like he's humanity's greatest salvation, potentially. He is going to save this league. He's not jaded yet as a superstar. He goes to the All-Star game, and you would think that complacency would bleed over to him and he'd get affected by it, trying to impress all the vets in that room. No, he's going to try, and everybody follows his lead. It's a refreshing perspective to be reminded, these guys play games for a living. This should be fun. And superstars should care like that for a regular season game. It's like hearing Roger Bennett talk about the ideals of America America, you have this appreciation for someone that is coming to you wide-eyed and looking at you full of the potential and hope and striving for who you desire to be. I think Wembanyama is great for this league.
And Zaz, whether he wins a championship or not, he could get bounced in the second round by Jokic, right? Going head-to-head with him. But what he's done for the league this season, moments like this, with crying after a regular season win and showing the emotion that comes with just playing a great basketball game, doing what he did for the All-Star game. It felt like he saved the All-Star game. And partially it was the format, but the way that he motivated a guy like Anthony Edwards, like I pray that the Timberwolves can build a good enough team around him so that we can see those guys going head-to-head despite positional differences for years to come. Wemby is doing something for this league that is rarely seen.
One of the things that I find most interesting about this, I'm not going to make it the most interesting thing, but it's pretty damn close. You mentioned Anthony Edwards, John Morant, face of the league. These people are a bit superhero in terms of human dimension. I've told you before, I was sitting courtside during a game with my wife, and she says, how tall is that small guy out there? And I'm like, he's taller than I am, Valerie. That's not a small person. That's a 6'5" person who looks small compared to everyone else. Kobe and Michael get credit that Kareem doesn't because we don't give the giant guy this. I've told you guys before that when it comes to reading and publishing, the people who read, the smaller the ball, the more people read. And Shaq, even though he's a spokesman for everything, whenever they put him on magazine covers, they would always fail because of how much he had to overcome as Goliath. This is the perfect player at the perfect time. You're not noticing that he's got an unfair advantage over everybody that does threaten to wreck the league. Because if he cares like this and stays healthy, he's too tall to play against. OKC slaughters everybody and can't do anything against the height of him and the disproportionate nature of that sport, where if you've got one guy like that, you don't even have to build a team around him. They have good players around him, but still, you don't have to have that many when you have that at the center of everything.
I think it speaks to the level of problems that the league has because it's so systemic with the superstars. It'll follow the lead of the superstars. Superstars aren't playing and they're willing to go with it and they don't care and they all kind of have this laissez-faire attitude. And everyone's like, well, I wish it were like the 90s where there was intensity and people cared about things like All-Star games and they wouldn't miss games. That leads itself to a mentality discussion. And for whatever reason, this generation of players do not have that mentality. Wembanyama is a shock to the system because he cares so deeply. He's trying to reinvent the way that those fans participate in their games, doing the chants, injecting this European soccer influence into it. And he's basically the rising tide there, not just for that franchise, but I think for the game as a whole.
Jokic says he's glad he's retiring soon before Wembanyama takes over the league. He says, quote, he's changing basketball. I'm glad that I'll probably retire before Wemby holds the entire league in a chokehold, end quote. I object to what you guys are saying there. And I know it's common perception. You can't do what those people do for a living and not care at all. It's just not possible. The people who don't care get weeded out by all of the people in management who are investing and will not allow you to not care. Now, the All-Star game is a different animal. That is obviously not caring. Guys aren't playing and there's load management because of how the game has changed physically, how much people are getting hurt. Don't tell me Norman Powell doesn't care.
I'll tell you James Harden doesn't care.
Okay, but he plays all the games, though. Like, you say he doesn't care, but one of the things, he's always out there. Like, he's not one of the ones load management.
Embiid is.
Mike,
there's so many of these guys, and there's just an attitude to them.
Mike, I can't let you say an MVP of the league doesn't care. You can't be better than everyone else in that sport not caring. It's not possible.
I think we're having a semantics discussion. Okay, fine. Wemby cares more, and it's obvious. This is not an opinion thing. The guy's crying after a regular season game against Kawhi Leonard, who I can never tell if he's going to be out there. There's so many guys.
Objecting to you saying flatly that nobody out there cares. It's not true.
Go ahead, Jeremy. I'm
It's
sorry.
the collective nature of the care. Because what it is so many of these guys, when they come into the league with hype, are trying to earn their max contract. They're looking at their individual success and their individual growth. And so that random regular season Friday night game against a team that you're probably not going to – you might face in the playoffs, but you're probably not going to face in the playoffs. It's just a random comeback. Might not mean as much that you got the victory.
Yeah.
There's trash talk. There's moments. There's work in the gym. There's all sorts of guys who do that. But I think what we're seeing and the reason this is standing out is you're looking at an individual who has an opportunity to be one of the greatest individual players of all time. But what he cares about is the collective right from the jump of his career, and that's rare.
That's how I feel. I think there's a difference between caring, meaning you want to win a championship, like big picture, you care. And I think there's a difference between that and caring every time you're out there. And I think Wembanyama cares every time he's out there, and I think most guys just care about the big picture, which is, I want to win a championship. It is very important.
And you have a generation of superstar that is like Kawhi. Like, why aren't you having fun? This is games. You have Durant, who seems miserable all the time.
I think there's a difference.
Jimmy Butler is surly. Kyrie willingly said, I'm not taking that vaccine. I don't want to play these games. I'm just not going to show up. Harden doesn't care. This is top line.
Wembanyama's not going to get up there to press conference and complain about playing a back-to-back.
I never know when Joel Embiid is playing. These are not small names. These are some of the biggest names. At times, there were guys that were, considered potential face of the league. It's even jaded Giannis to the point that now he's becoming the disenfranchised superstar. So to see the optimism that is very clear along Wemby himself and his fans, it's a breath of fresh air.
I'm objecting again and again to you guys thinking in any way or form that anyone can get to something as competitive as the meritocracy of sports, where all of them care about money. You could say they don't care about other things. All of them care about money. You can't be MVP of the league because you're so preternaturally gifted that you can beat a whole bunch of other people who are caring while you don't care.
I'm not following you to that hard line. I'm not having that discussion with you. They very clearly care about their profession and making their money, and on-court success is cool, but they'll play it cool. They all play it a certain way. Wemby doesn't. He cares differently. And that is obvious to everyone else. And that's a space that I'm living in. I'm not going to get into a debate. What Jalen Brunson doesn't care about basketball. He very clearly does. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, does he care night in, night out to play?
You guys want
Wemby cares more.
You guys want guys crying at the end of every game where it doesn't stand out unless Wemby does it because no one else is doing that.
Again, you're taking me to the extremes. No, don't. He doesn't have to cry every game, but it's great to see occasionally. What I'm saying is the easiest thing. What I'm saying is the easiest thing in the world. Wemby cares in ways that are different and obvious to everybody, and it's refreshing. More of that, please.
I think that what is sort of the irony within all of this is that for Mike individually, he has looked at a team over the last 5 years or so where their superstar, and Jimmy Butler, is the example of what he's talking about. Someone who cares so deeply. He does. You won't find a deeper competitor or a guy who cares about his craft the way that Jimmy Butler does. At the same time, he looked at the regular season as a tune-up for the postseason. And so as someone who's consuming the product all season long, Mike became someone who didn't really want to watch regular season games of his own team because he felt like on any given night, Jimmy might coast through that game, might be conserving energy for another game later in the year. So what I'm intrigued for is Wemby later in his career, once he's won 1, 2, 3, 4 championships. Is that emotion still going to be there the way it was with someone like Michael Jordan, who every single night was that competitor? I actually think so. But that's really, I think, where this comes from.
I think the modern NBA player is a lot like Kevin Durant in that I know you care. Kevin Durant, very clearly, all he cares about, I think, is the game. Yeah. But why are you so miserable?
Okay,
we're playing games.
Okay, he's miserable though because of everything that surrounds the games. If indeed you believe he's miserable, I think he likes this one thing and is exceptional at this one thing and cares deeply about this one thing. But I'm just going to continue to stop you when you tell me that I'm watching the era of Steph Curry's the greatest shooter I've ever seen. How did he get that way? How did he become?
I'm not following you there. I know Steph cares, but
Well,
also
LeBron. How is LeBron an unprecedented player? How does that happen?
Do you care every night? Do you care the way that I care watching the TV? Because I want you to care. I buy your jersey. I'm buying a ticket. You don't care to play because you're doing. The league is at a different place right now. They're saving their legs, and there's minutes restrictions and all this and that. The person watching TV wants people to care the way that Wemby does. And what I'm saying is more of that, please.
How do you guys not notice, though? Honestly, like I get how it is that basketball used to be and the way that we long for a different time. But how do we forget so quickly the lessons of the pandemic, which is when these guys weren't traveling all over the place, weren't tired, it's the best basketball you've ever seen. When they weren't flying all over the place, having practices in different places, trying to get, because I really don't think that the average fan, sports fan, not basketball fan, understands that these guys, after the Miami Heat are playing 2 games because they've changed the schedule at home against Brooklyn, that they're flying out and they're getting to Charlotte at 5 o'clock in the morning, that they're flying overnight and they're arriving in a city at 5 o'clock in the morning after. I know they fly private and everything else, but they're flying on airplanes. Like they're sleeping on airplanes. How do you guys forget that during the bubble we saw better basketball than we've ever seen, at least in part because these guys were simply rested?
I'll just give you an example. I mean, I was on the Miami Heat broadcast for 12 years, okay? And there would be home games where it's the first night of a back-to-back, and so the team is going to fly immediately after the game, and Mike Inglis, who was our play-by-play guy, was the only one of our radio team who traveled with the team. I didn't travel. Obviously, John Crotty didn't travel back then. He was on the radio with us. And after the game, we'd get up and I would leave and Mike would head toward where, the team was going to go to travel. And I remember thinking to myself, holy shit, that sounds really terrible to get on an airplane right now. And I'm just a broadcaster. And these guys are going to play. This sounds miserable if I had to go get on an airplane right now.
I do think that most people listening to this simply lose sight because they are such majestic athletes. And the past did us no favors by making 82 games a regular thing. But we've seen all of these organizations care less about the regular season, and you guys keep blaming the players for caring less. And it's never management doing this because they're trying to get to the playoffs healthy. You're never putting that blame on management because systemically they're allowing guys to take off who are making a bunch of money because they're trying to protect their bodies.
In a world full of Kawhis, be a Wemby.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. In a world full of Kawhis, be a Wemby. Pablo Torre is getting ready right now, and I don't know if you guys saw what it is that Pablo did at the Sloan Conference. But Mike, as Pablo gets ready to join us here, do you want to file any of your objections? And I will tell the people, first of all, if you didn't see what he did at the Sloan Conference, he, I guess, taped. I don't know whether he did it personally or someone else did, but the latest smoking gun, the biggest of the smoking guns that there has been in the 9-part Kawhi investigation, was taped to the chair in which Adam Silver was sitting, so that the smoking gun was literally under the commissioner's nose as he sat on a panel giving a conference. And Mike Ryan somehow found a way to criticize Pablo for this.
Yeah, the internet and myself are all wondering, why is Pablo trying to be the Riddler? Yes, it was an impressive, look, drawn out, overly dramatic, self-involved. These things go hand in hand.
That
with
should
Pablo
be the name.
Torre
That should be the name of the
out.
podcast instead of Pablo Torre finds out.
All right, so there's this it ends on this cliffhanger, even though he was promising this knockout punch. I'm like, did I see the knockout punch, or are there 2 more bits of evidence out there? Also, I asked Amin what was in the 2 other envelopes that were under 2 randomly selected chairs, because Pablo, on top of being the Riddler, was also Oprah during this thing, and Amin's like, I don't even know what's in those envelopes. Were we trying to start a whodunit? Is this a caper? The search functionality on X is terrible, so I can't actually find these other wayward envelopes. It was navel gazing. It was quintessential Pablo Torre in that there was really good journalism being done, but it was also very overly dramatic. Pablo, what say you?
Let's see if we get his sound up here in a second. Pablo does not appear to be ready for your what say you because he took those insults, all of them, right on the chin. He was smiling during many of them. He shouldn't have been. He should be indignant because he's doing very difficult work, and he's doing it theatrically because he can't help himself.
I have 2 questions. Has anyone called him Pablopra yet? And Dan, do you ever get worried about potentially crossing Pablo as his boss here? Because he seems to be a vindictive sociopath.
Good question.
Well, it is dramatic, and I don't know what was under the other seats. I was a little confused by that. I think he was giving those people also the documented proof. Mike, you're underwhelmed by what is really difficult to do journalism, and you keep saying, give me more of a smoking gun, when every time he does a report, it is more of a smoking gun, and this is the most smoking a gun has been around this, where he's got the documentation of a whistleblower telling the government. There's paperwork saying, look, this is all allegedly a contrivance meant to just pay Kawhi Leonard where no one's looking.
No, it was the lead in the whistleblower complaint. That was the nuts. That was the big revelation, that in this whistleblower complaint to the federal government, the lead was they're trying to circumvent the NBA salary cap with Kawhi's endorsement deal. I'm not the person saying, give me more of a smoking gun. Pablo Torre is. He said there's 2 more smoking guns underneath 2 more random chairs, and he ended his live podcast on a cliffhanger, and the broadcast cut out, and it pissed me off.
Yeah, he's doing this in dribs and drabs, and he's doing this because he's got it months in advance, and he's way ahead of this story. So, Pablo, defend yourself.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me now? Yes. Good.
Yes.
I appreciate the insults and the conversation as always. Part of what I want to do is always, and this is the curse of me, is draw attention to what we're doing. Because I unfortunately think we're at this phase where I thought we were going to be done after episode 2, and we're not. You know, the NBA investigation is ongoing. The NBA investigation has been a focus of what we did at Sloan on Friday live, which is to say I talked to 5 former Aspiration employees who all told me that they were not asked by Wachtell Lipton, the NBA's preferred outside investigation firm. They were not asked directly about Steve Ballmer by name, right? And so I am not just like dumping all of this as fast as I can because you know, I'm trying to be first on everything. I'm trying to make sure I get it right. And I'm only dropping stuff when there is reason to say, oh, maybe it's actually worth considering. That attention must be drawn to a story that I think the NBA is actively trying to minimize. And so that's part of why we Oprah'd it. Part of why me and David had no idea what they were getting in for. It's why we did it at a conference where Adam Silver was on those very chairs hours earlier, before, of course, going to meet Donald Trump at the White House in ways that I could not have possibly scripted.
What was under the other 2 chairs? For those who don't know, Sloan Conference is the Dorkapalooza. A lot of the smartest people in sports get together, and you know, they congratulate each other for an assortment of things. And under the chair of Adam Silver was a smoking gun. What was under the 2 other chairs in the audience that you placed in? What were the seats? Because you are trying to be the Riddler. There's no dispute on that.
Well, Mike said they were random chairs. It was Rose K and Roselle, seat number 2. You know, so.
But what was there?
So see, he's even more like the Riddler.
Yeah, but what was there? I don't want to solve your. I get it. K and L and 2. I get it.
Unfortunately, that is for the people sitting in those chairs to reveal. It's their. They have those documents now.
Get them to answer the
whistleblower
question.
complaint.
The whistleblower complaint.
I'm not here to step on further reporting. Just know that the reporting continues. The whistleblower complaint was many pages long.
You've done 9 of these.
There's lots more to find out.
That was the 9th
Mike,
one.
I'm as surprised as anybody that we're gonna have a 10th. Right? I'm genuinely as surprised as anybody. It's something, though, in the whistleblower complaint that I don't want to just speed past as we get to whatever sequels here, because I just want to clarify. This is the document that started the actual federal investigation into Aspiration. So the co-founder of Aspiration, Joe Sandberg, was prosecuted. He pled guilty to wire fraud. His co-conspirator, Ibrahim Al-Husseini, who was a board member of Aspiration, prosecuted, pled guilty to wire fraud. Those things happened because of the roadmap laid out in this document, which had been rumored for a very long time inside of Aspiration, but no one had ever seen before because a whistleblower complaint is confidential. And one of the things that has happened that has enabled the reporting, and by the way, this is why, like, when I say I have to get it right, I really do wait for the actual document. Like, it's not, the evidence is now undeniable in terms of, did these federal whistleblowers under penalty of perjury put into writing in March of 2023, years before I ever even published part one, did they say the thing that people have since accused me of grafting and grifting onto a story in retrospect? Oh, why would they ever be talking about cap circumvention? This is a larger criminal enterprise. What does it matter that anyone care about the salary cap? Well, this is part 9. Parts 1 through 8 explain that. And here is kind of the keystone in case anybody still had remaining doubt. And you can see it on screen. It says, even to pay Clippers forward Kawhi Leonard an incentivized bonus to circumvent the NBA salary cap disguised as an organic marketing sponsorship agreement. By the way, we've provided contract of that agreement. We provided bank statements of money in and money out. We now have a whistleblower complaint under perjury from 2 Aspiration employees. And the only way, by the way, this comes together is because in sort of like poetic symmetry with Adam Silver going to the White House, this administration has effectively turned over multiple federal agencies that have been investigating the story. The Department of Justice, the SEC, the CFTC, the 3 agencies that these whistleblowers reported to, those are all shells of themselves. And so my ability to report the story, it is like panoramic at this point. You know, it's like I'm going to every possible place, and that's the only way you can get to the bottom of a story like this. And the question is, who else is doing that?
One of the things that I see happening, and I just think that it really shows great ignorance about, and I will keep saying this, the degree of difficulty on getting documentation that is vetted, that makes for proof. A lot of people are saying, wake me up when there is something that's an update, as the updates are incremental. They are updates. And Bruce Arthur, the Canadian columnist, is saying, quote, Pablo delivers again. There is simply no other plausible scenario other than cap circumvention in the Kawhi case. Why do you believe that what's happened so far represents the greatest proof of any kind that you have as it relates to a smoking gun? And how can you possibly say there's a lot more to find out here?
So I want to credit Bruce Arthur because Bruce, of course, like covers the Raptors in Toronto. He had heard and has reported since what Dennis Robertson, Kawhi's unlicensed representative, his uncle, had been requesting of the Raptors. And he had been requesting, per Bruce's reporting, a no-show job and equity in a company that he didn't have to do any work for. And that is the story, incidentally, of Aspiration. So these requests were made. The question is, how were they delivered? And here we have 9 parts showing that. So credit to Bruce for truly like reporting out that aspect of the story. To me, there are 3 indisputable examples of why this is cap circumvention. The first one was in the first episode. It was that no one ever announced this deal. Why would an endorsement deal be secret? Like, I've been waiting for I had Mark Cuban in the studio at length, like asking, why would this ever remain confidential? An endorsement agreement with Kawhi Leonard in which not only did he do nothing, you never announced it. Why would that never be announced? Why would that
do
be
nothing? When you say do
Clippers?
nothing, the alleged no-show job that he was paid for that required him to do nothing.
He was signed to a $28 million contract, an endorsement agreement that he did nothing for. In fact, the greatest example is that they never even announced that the endorsement contract existed, even as Kawhi was getting paid to never talk about it. Why would the Clippers and Kawhi and Aspiration all agree none of us should we should never say anything about this, we should deny it in the future? Like, what other reason other than this needed to be a secret deal to violate the NBA salary cap? What other reason would there be? Right? So there's just a logical, like, documentation and evidence around that part. The second thing is the fact that Dennis Wong, the Clippers co-owner, Steve Ballmer has one co-owner of the Clippers. It's rare, Dan. A 99-1 ownership group. Two people. One guy owns 99, one guy owns 1%. Dennis Wong went to Harvard with Steve Ballmer. He is his close friend. He is the vice chairman of the Clippers. He, as we've reported exhaustively, when Aspiration was in default, Dennis Wong had never put money in before, and he decides in December of 2022, I'm going to invest $2 million into a broke company that I know via the disclosure form on the contract, which we also published. We know that they are under investigation by the SEC. We know that they have no money. They're broke. I'm going to invest as if they're a normal company. And then 9 days later, Kawhi Leonard will be paid $1.75 million, his quarterly payment, to do nothing after months of not getting paid that sum because Aspiration had burned through all of their money, right? Why would they do that? Why would they pay Kawhi when they had no other money to pay anything? Why would they pay the guy that is a secret endorser who does nothing 9 days after the co-owner of the Clippers puts in money for the first time, the only outside investor to give money to Aspiration, right? No one's ever explained any other plausible money in, money out explanation for that. So that's the second thing. And the third thing, we're just talking about like what feels the most indisputable, the rankings here. The third thing is this complaint, the whistleblower complaint under penalty of perjury to the federal government in 2023. One of the questions has always been, why is it that you have all these anonymous sources, even on tape, voice modulated, right? It's very easy to say, in retrospect, they were circumventing the cap because maybe you were convinced by episode 1. Maybe you were just, connecting dots on your own. This complaint shows in writing under federal penalty that can be prosecuted if you knowingly lie that people said this long before I ever heard of the company. And so I'm okay with the demand for a smoking gun. All I ask of anybody who takes that side of the argument is to provide one alternative explanation to Bruce Arthur's point that it's something else. Tell me what you think explains this, and no one has ever plausibly done that.
These documents are really difficult to get a hold of unless you're randomly seated in rows K and L at the Sloan Conference, and then it's just in your possession. Pablo, did you embargo this? Because you ended the episode on a cliffhanger, and I just assumed, well, since two randos have these documents, I'll just check social media, and this will be posted there. But I haven't heard what's in these envelopes at all. Are they in your employ? How have you kept this buttoned up?
Well, I'm a careful person. I'm a careful guy.
But why even do that?
Because I don't think you need anything else. I genuinely think that after part 1, and let's say part 2, right? The first 2 things in this power rankings are the 3 things that are most undeniable. That was accomplished in the first 2 episodes. Everything else has been further proof, reporting, sourcing, dissection, counter-argument, pressure testing, all of that stuff, for 7 months. And so if anybody wants more, there is more. But frankly, I don't think I need to say what else is out there. But I guess I'll get to it at some point, though.
2 questions, Pablo. 1, did you run into Adam Silver at all at the conference? And 2, have you heard it all from Mark Cuban lately?
Mark has disappeared. Mark has summarily disappeared. It's interesting that the episode I did with Dan, when I brought Dan in for one of the Aspiration episodes, it was about the carbon credit stuff. And we retraced that in this episode, part 9 on Friday at Sloan. Dan was the first person to experience that. And I bring that up because the reason I booked Dan for that episode was because I wanted to get Mark Cuban and I had to settle for another Cuban. And Mark was the person who first theorized if we were going to do, it's true. And the question that Mark Cuban theorized was, if you're going to do cap circumvention, you do it through carbon credits. And so I'm not going to redo all of the Friday episode here, although I've basically started to. It's yes, great point. And we show that that is also what happened here. And so Mark Cuban has disappeared, which is, I think, telling, as to your point. Adam went almost immediately from that stage to, I presume, this is just my connecting of the dots, how you get to Washington, D.C. in time for a 4 o'clock meeting with the president. from Boston, where he was. He went right to the private jet, I assume, to the White House. So no. Although again, it was the number of people who were in the audience. These are all characters who I think might have thumbs on the scale of what the NBA does, and we'll see whether that was, persuasive to them.
Take us through how it is that physically you got the document taped under his chair, and did you literally want the evidence to be right under his nose?
So it didn't start. Look, as much as I like being something like the Joker or the Riddler.
The Riddler. You're not the Joker.
The Riddler.
You're not the Joker, as evidenced by this sound.
I think that's better.
You're not the Joker. You don't get to be the Joker. You can be the Riddler.
That's a good photo.
The Joker would have killed him.
Adam Silver
There's a
looks like
sadomasochism,
somebody
though.
who could be a villain in one of these movies. He just physically, more than anyone in sports. But how is it physically? Take me through both the thought process, the decision, and who physically did it.
Yeah, so again, I'm not the Riddler. I'm somebody who got invited to do a panel at Sloan and thought to myself, who else is speaking at Sloan? Oh, wow, Adam Silver is speaking earlier in the day in the same lecture hall. And I'm going to have David and Amin there. Like, how can I convey to David and Amin this new information? Well, typically I'd give them folders, but there's not a desk. So what if we do it some other way? And then I thought, well, it'd be funny because I'm an American who grew up in the age of daytime television. It'd be funny if, like, I did the Oprah thing. It was like, look under your chairs. There's a gift for you. Instead of a car you got to pay taxes on, it's this document. And so I thought, wait a minute. If we put those documents under David and Amin's chairs early enough in the day, it's possible that Adam would be sitting in that same chair. And so I had one of our producers, who will remain nameless perhaps for legal reasons, show up at Sloan at 7 a.m. on Friday and tape it underneath the chairs. And I should say, for legal reasons as well, Daryl Morey, the organizer and the co-founder of the conference, had no idea what we were doing. Nobody at the conference was in on this in the way that, of course, our staff was. And so for that reason, we just woke up really early. And it turned out that, yep, these were the chairs.
I should mention that Ballmer and the Clippers continue to deny all wrongdoing. They declined to comment for this episode, as they have for a while, and they say they are fully cooperating with the NBA's investigation that was sparked by Pablo. Pablo is up for yet more awards, I should tell you. 2026 iHeart Podcast Awards are next Monday at South by Southwest. He is nominated for Podcast of the Year. He's also up for Best Host. So Podcast of the Year, he's going up against The Daily, Call Her Daddy, The Breakfast Club, Mel Robbins, Theo Vaughn, all the big names in podcasting. And on Best Host, it's Amy Poehler and Emma Chamberlain and also Alex Cooper from Call Her Daddy. The biggest award that you have been proudest to win so far, and do you expect to win this one? Because the work you're doing is unlike anything anyone, never mind sports podcasting, anyone anywhere is doing in podcasting.
Yeah, look, no one, for better and for worse, and the award stuff is for the better. And I am I'm heartened that people have felt boxed in enough by journalism that they feel like they got to put us into those categories, frankly, because we're doing it in a way that no one else is doing it, for better and for worse, which is to say with these documents. Like I would love to get to a point where, the sheer force of my charisma is the reason why I'm in a category with Amy Poehler in any way. But no, man, it's just we're doing journalism. Like we're really showing the power of doing evidence-driven reporting. And so I am so thrilled that we've been included, because it's weird. Like, it's a bunch of people that I would say billionaires would love to invite to a cocktail party, and then the one person who they absolutely don't. And I take pride in that. I take pride in the fact that it's a weird thing for us to be in those rooms.
Who's on the other side of arguing the other side of this right now? Who are you hearing from? And are you willing to say that Mark Cuban is now hiding from you in a sheer act of cowardice?
If Mark Cuban is out there, I would love for you to come back on the show. He came in studio, and we talked at length, and he was such a delight. And then he tweeted nothing after it came out, and he stopped talking about aspiration entirely. And I'm just curious why. So I'm not going to call him a coward. I'm merely going to say that his silence has been conspicuous, and I'd like to figure out like if his thinking has changed. He was Team Ballmer, and since he's been very, 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 very quiet.
Who's on the other
so
side
people-
of this? Who else is out there? Because look, it's strange to me, okay? I underestimated 10 years ago that the President of the United States could become the President of the United States taking a hatchet to journalism. People hate journalists more than just about any occupation. It's right up there with used car salesman and agent and lawyer in terms of not liking somebody. You, despite doing legitimately extraordinary work, have now become polarizing, at least in part because you do it as the Riddler and you do it with some self-involvement, and you call it charisma. I call it hateability that you were taught at the knee of us.
You?
Yes. Of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I learned it from you, Dad, by the way.
Dan, I learned it from you, Dan,
sorry.
said in the
Is that
voice
a Freudian slip?
of Dad. You have been surprised by the reaction, and who's on the other side of this? Because you keep presenting facts that make it damn near impossible to be on the other side of this because of all of the things that you said. Show me the alternative reasoning here that no one can explain.
Yeah, look, the reason that I do the theater of this is from a place of, wow, I got invited to this conference to do a live show. How can I make this interesting? And then it was, if I'm going to do another chapter in this series that people are pretty numb to, because I think most people out there, by the way, fans, head coaches, owners, general managers, when I run into them, when I see them at games, at conferences, they all agree that this is egregious. These allegations feel like they deserve punishment, right? These alleged schemes must warrant punishment. That's what I hear all the time. So I'm not saying that, like, you know, people are idiots who don't get what I'm saying. I think they largely do. The theatricality comes from the premise of journalism needs entertainment to cut through. And I was a writer who only wrote. I was a TV person who only gas-bagged. And now I'm trying to do both of them together because I am at odds, I guess, with what is required otherwise to make an impact. And so I decided, fine, I'll play the game too. And I enjoy the game. And so that's why I do it that way. The people who are on the other side of this, though, frankly, it's people who cover and talk about the NBA who find that this story should be adjudicated by the NBA. And I'm like, guys, I'm not here to say that we're Woodward and Bernstein, right? I'm not here to say that this is the president being forced to resign. I'm not saying that. All I'm simply saying is that if you ever talk about cheating in sports, if you talk about cap circumvention, which is how you get the most important assets in this sport, star players, to join a team which everybody cares about so deeply that entire seasons are overshadowed by the acquisition of star players, right? That's the whole thing with NBA Twitter. We're obsessed with it. I'm telling you, the most egregious, and the Ringer has said this to its credit, the most egregious cap circumvention scandal in history, allegedly, is this one. And so why would you leave it to the NBA to tell you how big a deal it is or not? Months removed from its initial impact, such that the footprint of it, the accountability of it, the importance of it can be reduced, right? Like and this is where, you know, I do feel like I just got to reassert something. I do this because I'm like actually a sports fan, because I grew up loving the NBA, because I grew up writing into a little notebook the Dream Team statistics and fetishized the New York Knicks and admiring Michael Jordan despite my fandom of the Knicks and going to games and really caring about this thing and then watching our sport, my favorite sport, become a thing that built up credibility over time, that became a very popular mainstream product, welcomed into American homes all around the world as well. And they decided to get into business with a bunch of people who, frankly, are misrepresenting the truth of what they're doing to the public. And I mean this to say in the Epstein class sense. I mean this to say in the crypto scammer sense. I mean this to say in the sovereign wealth fund sense. I mean this to say in the Silicon Valley sense. And certainly in the case of a company like Aspiration, which the NBA and the Clippers decided to present to the public as if this is a real company, and they didn't do the due diligence. And they're still it seems, allegedly, not doing the due diligence. And the question of like what has happened, what's that meme? What's happened to the game I love? The reason I'm on this and why I'm not leaving it to the NBA to tell you what's really happening here is because I think the truth when it comes to sports should be taken seriously. And I got to be a turd in the punch bowl sometimes, I guess, to do that. And also literally the Riddler.
Perhaps you've also noticed that when he gives the Ringer credit or Bruce Arthur credit and he says to their credit, it's only when they're saying that he's done exactly the correct thing the most correctly. You've noticed that perhaps that he doles out credit to people who already agree with him on things, and the whole exercise is fairly masturbatory. But it does seem...
Well, it becomes less masturbatory the more participants, right? It becomes something else. There are other terms for it.
It's true.
Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate you.
He's right. When he's right, he's right.
I appreciate you
To my credit.
co-signing on that. Yes, to your credit, to your masturbatory credit. Wherever it is, there's one person masturbating verbally, you'll get right in and masturbate verbally even more than that.
Like here, I have to masturbatorily be right about the Miami Heat. But Pablo has people there to help him when it comes to the Clippers. Hey, by the way, Pablo, what do you think of the 5-game win streak for the Heat?
So anyway, the other things that Pablo is doing, because he is doing an extraordinary job on Pablo Torre Finds Out, is every episode has something interesting in it. You just did one on AI. When you say the sport I love, the social media parts that I used to love, Mike Ryan just pointed out on X how hard it is to search for things. Mina Kimes is pointing out that Google doesn't help her do her job anymore because it's been so contaminated as a search engine. I was alarmed by your recent reporting on artificial intelligence. You've done a couple of pieces on this. What is the last and most recent information that you found most interesting about just how damaging and dangerous artificial intelligence is?
Yeah, I mean, economically speaking, I'm talking to all these experts who are far better versed in the industry of artificial intelligence than I am. There's just no way of avoiding the sinking feeling that AI is becoming too big to fail, which is to say that Amina was a great voice to this as a former business journalist herself. Like, we're being sold a product and we're being told that this product is so popular and so good. And whether or not that resonates with you at home using AI in the way that you do or don't, the money pouring into it from the U.S. economy is unprecedented. The speed of money and the scale of money entering artificial intelligence as an industry is so enormous that we are going to get to a point that reminded us, me and Mina, of 2008, the great financial crisis, when we were both reporters working in New York City. And there were companies, there were banks that were too big to fail. And what does that even mean for those who forgot the great financial crisis? It literally meant that there was so much money tied up in certain financial institutions that even though those institutions were corrupt and betraying the public in the most definitional ways and were not using that money responsibly, in fact, collapsing the economy, the U.S. people, us, the government, public money, had to save those companies to prop them up. Otherwise, the economy would have been even worse. And so AI is getting to that same point. There is so much money propping up AI, which is in turn boosting the U.S. economy. When you think about the most valuable companies in the world, like NVIDIA, these chip makers that are funding the processing that AI runs on. When you think about OpenAI, when you think about Anthropic, when you think about Google, these are all Apple is getting into the AI, is already in the AI business. All these companies are saying AI is the future, cool. And before they have to prove its use to the people, to customers in real life, they're getting investment such that if those products end up being not a thing people want to actually pay for, right? Like, what's the actual business at the end of this? Mina was asking the question, are real people paying for these AI products, or are companies or enterprise customers paying for them? And therefore, it seems like a lot of normal people are, but really it's just companies paying other companies to boost stock prices. And if that's the case, and AI as a product turns out to not be the revelation, then by the time those stocks fall, the U.S. economy will be so reliant upon them that we may have to bail them out to. They will become too big to fail, which is to say we are inviting potentially another economic crisis if we don't watch where the money is going. And that is a little bit terrifying.
Have any of you guys seen the movie 2073? It is put out there as a dystopian future sort of action movie, but it's actually a documentary inside of it, and all of it's horrifying. Like what is presently happening with the government of the United States, for example, being so brazenly purchased by billionaires, more brazenly than we've ever seen. It's always been so, but the government being used right now by billionaires to create a dystopian future that separates the billionaires from all of the little people, I had to turn it off in the middle of it because the truth is so horrifying. Your podcast with Mina felt the same way. The truth is so horrifying, I wanted to turn it off because there's no coming back from where we already are.
That is a downside for us in the awards categories we've been entered into. That people find the things we're reporting to be so horrifying.
It's not Call Her Daddy. It's not Call Her Daddy. That's not what you're doing. Those shouldn't be in the same category.
We're reporting on glucking of a different kind in this case. In this case, it is the administration of our country and the corporate leaders that you're referring to. Yeah, man, it's scary. It's scary. And I think there's, again, the water's warm, by the way. I think it's just funny, Dad, that, like, again, the I learned it from you stuff. I think there's a lot of room for people to make an impact here talking about this stuff. And maybe people have made a calculation that serves them best, and that's okay on some level. But I don't know. It just seems like in the documentary of our time, and this is the exercise I always try to do, 10 years from now in the documentary of our time, which character are you going to be? And I think people are maybe not making the right choice on that.
The name of the podcast is Pablo Torre Finds Out. Can we do something a little more uplifting when we talk about the end of the world?
Die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. The sky seems to be falling, and we're all wondering why. Let's turn on the news and find out how we're gonna die.
Thank you, Pablo. Pablo Torre Finds Out. It really is extraordinary. I urge all of you to check it out. I remember when the quaint apocalyptic movie, was it called 2011 or 2012 with John Cusack, the movie where he's just driving as fast as he can.
I like that movie.
As Earth falls apart behind him. It seems quaint and charming and fossilized, just an antique compared to where it is that we are actually headed. You like the movie?
Yeah.
Is it 2011 or 2012?
I think it's 2012.
2012.
Where the Statue of Liberty just falls into the ocean.
I like those apocalyptic type, like what's the one with Jake Gyllenhaal as well, right?
Day After Tomorrow.
I like that movie too. Yeah, I like those kind of films.
We're living in the middle of it right now. We are at the center of it. So let's distract ourselves with the Miami of Ohio undefeated season.
I thought you were going to say Miami Heat. Oh, man, thank you for finally bringing it to the spectacle of the sporting weekend. It was a great weekend for sports. It's basically sports equinox. You got a million things going on. And I was positively dialed sound on to Miami of Ohio at Ohio.
A college basketball game in the hundreds, them going back and forth at each other into overtime.
I mean, the lighting in the arena was terrible. It had a film on it when you were watching the game broadcast, and it was like another time. It was March basketball. It was everybody clear out of the way. We're giving it to the best player, Scrappy, number 13 in white, Pavelski, trying to hold on to this rivalry advantage that Ohio has had over Miami, Ohio. Miami, Ohio, undefeated this season in college basketball, gunning for their 30th victory. Ohio had victories over their rival, I think dating back at home since 2011. So this was a huge win streak, and the game friggin' delivered. Back and forth the entire time, heroic shot making, absolute cags from each team, and such hate from the Ohio attendees that at the end of it, has Jeff Goodman tweeted? Because at the end of it, there were mother bleeps and bleep yous and smiling faces, hidden meanings, projectiles. I loved it. It was the best basketball game I'd seen this year.
Miami of Ohio against Ohio. Ohio was a small dog in the game. Miami of Ohio ends a perfect season, Zaslow, that nobody believes is going anywhere in the tournament because they've had the 300th toughest schedule or something like that. It was the last time I checked, it was at 280, and they're an undefeated team playing against Ohio. On the road, and they're just a 4-point favorite because everyone knows that team is not all that good, even though it's undefeated.
They are not favored to win their conference. Akron is.
Whatever. If you're undefeated, you make the tournament. If you don't lose, if you're playing Division I basketball and you don't lose a single game in your regular season, you deserve to be in the tournament.
In one college sport.
Yeah.
But it has so much juice to it. And they've had several of these games where they survive when you don't think they are.
That's a fun story. It's also a TV show. Like when the committee is making their selections this weekend, you don't think that's going to have some juice to it? Miami of Ohio, first round game, Thursday or Friday the following week. That game's got some juice to it. I want to check that out.
Man, they got this like little. You would think that the underdog, undefeated Miami, Ohio team would be beloved. But they've been villains. I don't want them to continue to be undefeated. And now I'm kind of come around. Like, I rock with these guys. They're trying to be bad guys when no one believes in them. They're trying to bully people around when they're 4.5 feet tall. It's great to see.
Who would you rather have in the tournament? Undefeated Miami of Ohio or 15-loss Auburn? Like, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here.
When Mike Ryan says no one believes in them, I saw him wandering around during our break trying to get someone to believe him that the Ben Shapiro eyebrow situation wasn't photoshopped, wasn't altered by others. There's no way, Mike, this can't be real.
It's not real.
I have multiple.
It's not real.
I have videos from his social media, selfie videos. Look at that.
Videos are never fake. Videos are always
real. He posted this himself.
He has Tom Selleck's mustache above each eye.
That is a selfie video that he posted.
That is not real. How do you even get eyebrows like that? Nobody says, hey, I'm going to grow out my eyebrows. That's not a thing. You can't just, you can grow out your hair. You can grow out your beard. You don't grow out eyebrows.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard
It's not real.
Show. Does Ben Shapiro have Tom Selleck's mustache over each one of his eyes? This doesn't seem
Dan, that's not real.
Like it can be real. Occasionally someone will send me a picture or a video of me that day that Ron McGill said that I looked like a Papi Chulo when I was just doing an impersonation of somebody who had done a fake highly questionable with me and Bomani, and I had just painted on my eyebrows and on my mustache something so very dark as to clearly be fake. I saw over the weekend, a Hispanic crooner of some sort, an old guy, singing with Tony Bennett, who had, yes, thank you, that's him right there. Look at that, Zaslow. Which is the more egregious offense between those two people? I am remiss in not knowing who that Latin legend is.
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing. That guy's eyebrows, he may have been born with those eyebrows. That may be just how he looks. Ben Shapiro all of a sudden is showing up with a bush above each eye. It's not real.
It is real. All the videos are real. I understand the skepticism. I shared in it, and then I researched the internet for 15 minutes to try to find evidence to the contrary. He dyes the eyebrows, but he also made them bushier. It's irrefutable.
Gender-affirming care.
My mother has rarely been more frustrated with my father than when it is that he would go from totally gray at work when he was an industrial engineer and the plant manager for a fiberglass company in Hialeah. He would go from totally gray to looking the following day like this Latin crooner because he had painted everything black.